The raid started before sunrise, but the story began with a single sealed container that wasn't clean and fuel reimbursements for patrol cars that never left the lot. From that first anomaly to 20 arrests, this is the pivot from symptom to system. We'll walk the path investigators followed. Ghost contracts, a private security firm's Northlight project, and patrol cars that rendered cartel cargo invisible. Then, the break, 50 hours of covert audio and 27 video clips, synchronized to map the network. Keep watching to see how the shield was worn down from within, and how the system was finally cut at the roots. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why did a sealed evidence container ping for cocaine residue? And why did fuel logs bill miles that cruisers never drove? Those two entries sat on different spreadsheets in different offices. They only started to make sense when a clerk flagged overtime spikes on nights with no arrests, and a city mechanic noted brake wear identical to vehicles that never left the lot. Small numbers and odd receipts, the kind you fix with a memo stacked into a pattern that didn't want to be accidental. The first run-through blamed sloppy paperwork. Then, the timestamps refused to line up. Units showed fuel charges at hours when their GPS pings went silent. Maintenance orders landed right after shift changes, not after shifts on the road. The few stops that did happen felt off. Wrong cars pulled for minor tags while other vehicles slipped through the edge of town without so much as a glance. People started asking why the same side streets cleared out 10 minutes before midnight, twice a week, like a parade route that nobody would admit existed. When route timings were plotted against patrol rotations, a second map appeared. Back roads that avoid permanent checkpoints lit up on the same nights certain shift codes punched in. Marked units didn't chase anyone. They drifted ahead of two vehicle convoys, idled at crossroads, and rolled through four-way stops just slow enough to control the intersection. A moving bubble formed around the shipments. Not a chase, not a pursuit. An escort. Within that bubble, radios stayed quiet. Outside it, the city ran on, unaware. Corruption doesn't pop up at random. It clusters, then sinks. Misconduct flags, late reports, missing video, unlogged brakes, gathered around the same watch commanders and the same call windows. Those clusters matched trafficking timelines tied to rural corridors. Internal controls failed where they were most needed. Audits sampled the wrong days. Supervisors signed off on hours by habit. Systems designed to spot abuse were fed clean-looking data that hid the aberrations in plain sight. The first names on the board weren't people. They were unit IDs, three-letter shift codes, and repeating radio call patterns that showed up right before the suspected runs. The same units called in a presence check near county lines, then went dark for 30 minutes, then reappeared 2 towns over. No sirens, no incident numbers, just a reliable pulse of activity that matched the window couriers favored when the highway patrol rotated off certain stretches. Money explained the silence. $3,000 per convoy. Not flashy. Not enough to trigger sudden lifestyle changes. Enough to matter when paid twice a month, in cash, via an intermediary who never texted and never met the same officer twice. Drops happened behind strip malls, at auto yards, at a shuttered feed store off a farm road. The amount signaled consistency. A service, not a gamble. And the more regular it looked, the more the books could absorb it without raising alarms. Investigators tallied 52 suspected runs. At first, it looked like noise spread over half a year. Then the schedule became visible. Tuesday and Thursday nights, keyed to a patrol roster that rotated every 14 days. When a watch commander swapped shifts, the convoy nights moved with them. When a unit went in for legitimate service, the run paused. When it came back, the bubble reformed. Same time, new route variation to avoid a recent crash site that brought extra troopers. By then, the symptom map had turned into a corridor map. Escorts weren't favors. They were a line item with timing, cover, and a known rate. The network exploited the badge to mute risk, using public routines as camouflage. And now that the corridor stood out in ink, the next move wasn't theory or rumor. It was proof. On tape, on video, and in the trail of cash that flowed through an off-the-books pipeline waiting to be traced and cut. How do you turn whispers and spreadsheets into cuffs at sunrise? You start by building proof that can stand alone. Investigators stitched together more than 50 hours of covert audio with 27 video clips and overlaid them on the corridor map that had taken shape. Each clip and file had a time, a location, and a reason to be in the stack. The goal wasn't a highlight reel. The goal was a chain that showed marked cruisers syncing with shipment windows and the people behind those windows talking about what they thought no one could hear. Covert recording in small departments risked exposure from the first mic check. Everyone knows everyone. One wrong move and the entire run vanishes for months. So they wired informant cars, placed stationary mics near known staging lots, and used route cameras that looked like routine traffic counters. They needed audio that caught coordination and video that confirmed placement. They needed proof that didn't rely on trust in a single witness. It had to show the structure, not just 2 or 3 dirty nights. The paper trail pointed to Halifax Protective Solutions and a project label called Northlight. On paper, Northlight paid for training modules, safety drills, and vehicle upgrades. In practice, ledgers showed invoices for cars that never rolled and maintenance for gear that no line officer could recall using. Reimbursements stacked in layers, training credits, safety stipends, fuel offsets, all flowing through a private security shell that looked like a civic partner and acted like a wash station for cash. Ghost contracts did the heavy lifting. Padded overtime tied to municipal budgets covered gaps the escorts created. A canceled training day turned into a billable half shift. A community outreach detail, never scheduled, showed up as a line item. When the books balanced, the excess moved through false leases and back into Halifax accounts. By the time the team traced it end to end, about $3.4 million had crossed ledgers that claimed to improve public safety while hiding cartel-linked funds in plain sight. You don't serve a case like this with one agency. Deconfliction kept the lift quiet. FBI, DEA, and state task forces shared targets, checked overlaps, and built warrants without tipping off anyone inside a precinct. Warrants sat pre-staged for homes, lockers, precinct offices, and shell company spaces connected to Halifax. If a phone pinged in a safe, a second team already had the entry order. If a ledger moved, the seizure order traveled with it. The takedown ran dusk to dawn. Teams stacked at staging points, checked radios, and synced clocks to the route overlays that had nailed down convoy nights. Entries hit at once. Homes, side offices, and a warehouse room labeled for training. Agents bagged encrypted phones and tablets, pulled route maps from a locker, and boxed ledgers that matched the audio timestamps. Cash bundles surfaced behind false panels and inside a desk with a broken lock that had never been logged as evidence storage. By the end, 20 people were in custody, including 14 officers linked to the escort rotations that created the moving bubble. The money logic came into focus. Escort fees traveled as coded line items, consulting blocks, safety incidentals, and off-the-books fees buried under Northlight reimbursements. Briefings told officers which farm roads and county lanes to favor when highway patrol units rotated off their choke points. The recorded calls matched the maps. The maps matched the books. Synchronized media tied it together. Audio, video, and financials pushed the story past bad apples. What emerged was internal architecture that converted public routines into cover, and then into cash. With that system torn open and cut, the next question isn't how it operated. It's how to build walls that keep the badge from becoming a corridor for the next pipeline. The real win wasn't the raid. It was cutting a pipeline that turned public trust into cover for organized crime. Shutting that route breaks the currency that made the badge a shield. That's the threshold that matters.